Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about a method for catching panfish that to me is a lot more exciting than your traditional bobber worm method. This basically is what I like to refer to as a topwater panfish method, and it's a lot more exciting. You get to explore a lot more water with it and cover a lot of water really quickly, and it's a great way for young kids that are ready to move beyond the bobber stage to stay excited about fishing while still focusing mainly on panfish. So with that, let's get to it. As far as rod and reel for this type of fishing, any medium to light action rod and reel will work. In this video, I've got just a dock shooting rod that I use. It kind of doubles as a panfish rod, a paired up spinning reel, and 6-pound Mr. Crappie fishing line. So the next thing you're going to need is a bubble float. And this is effectively just a torpedo-shaped float that is tied in ahead of our fly or bait that allows us to have some weight, which is what allows you to use a spinning reel to get your bait out to where the fish are. So the narrow end of the bubble float is what will go to the main line. And obviously the fatter end of the float is the side that goes towards the leader and the bait. And the first two of these are made to just tie directly to your line, but this third one, the one that I'm handling right here, this one's a little bit different. It's got a piece of surgical tubing that runs through the center of it, and as you can see, you can remove the back end of it and twist it. So once you've run your line through the tubing, it just sort of just twists on and holds it onto your line by friction. And the great thing about this is it allows you to adjust your leader length as you go if you need to make some minor adjustments. And then, of course, you're going to need a bait. And a couple different choices here when it comes to this type of fishing for topwater panfish. The first of these is a popper. This is just a small traditional popper that's often used with fly rods. But the other bait that I use that I tend to find success with more often than not is the simple rubber spider. Just this black and white pattern tends to do it most of the time. Sometimes, depending on water clarity and conditions, you may need to adjust your colors a little bit. But this rubber spider usually knocks them dead. And if not, the popper is my second choice. And then the leader that you're going to use to connect the bubble float to your bait is typically in the length of somewhere between 3 and 4 feet. This can vary, again, depending on water clarity. Sometimes when that bait is too close behind the float, the fish will get a little bit shy. The clear float certainly helps because it doesn't show up that well, but especially if you're using a colored float, sometimes that can be intimidating to some of the smaller panfish, and if the bait is too far behind it, or too close to it, I'm sorry, the fish will shy away. So the method used here is pretty straightforward, nothing magical about it really. Simply cast it out to where you think the fish are, or where you know the fish to be. And then patience is kind of a little bit of a key here, because if you just twitch it along, the fish may be apprehensive enough that they're not willing to follow it and hit it. But if you just give it a little twitch and then maybe a few seconds pause, it may take them, and I've watched them do it, you can see them kind of following it, but their apprehension goes away the more you set it still. So a slight twitch, leave it still. Maybe count to 3 or 4. Then maybe another slight twitch, leave it alone. And the only difficulty with this sort of fishing is, especially with the clear float, and your eyesight, is it can be a little bit difficult to see at times. If you're making some far casts, you got the clear float and you don't have the greatest eyesight, this can be a little bit difficult, especially if there's a chop on the water. Clear water, it's a little bit easier to see, or I'm sorry, calm water, it's a little easier to see. But if you have a chop on the water, you really got to pay attention to where that thing lands and keep your eyes on it. Sometimes the fish will smack that fly at the top of the water and it's real obvious that you've got a fish on. Other times they'll kind of hit it sideways, especially if the spider's floating just below the surface. You really won't see much on the surface, but if you're paying close attention to the spider, you'll kind of see it move. Or you might just see the float itself twitch a little bit, and that's a sign that the fish has hit it. But especially when they're on their beds, they can get very aggressive, and it's easy to see, and that's when it's a lot of fun. So this type of fishing can be used really anytime from the time that the fish move up high in the water column in the springtime when the water temperatures are warming up, and the bugs are starting to show up on the surface. It can be used during the spawn, which is the best time to use it. That's when it's the most fun. They're really, really aggressive during that period of time. But the rest of the summer, really, all the way up until fall when the fish start to push out into deeper water and the bugs stop showing up on the surface. Bluegill and other sunfish love bugs. It's one of their favorite food sources. It's one of the primary things that keeps them going during the year. And so it's just natural that when the bugs are on the surface of the water, the fish are there looking for them and will readily hit them. So hope you enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, please hit the like button. Consider subscribing to our channel. Feel free to share our channel with anyone that you think might be interested in this type of content. And thanks for watching.